Hey free to play gang, welcome back to another video. So for today, we are going to take a look at 5 Espers that are highly underrated and just not talked about a lot in this game. However, they do have a lot of potential value, and these are of course just rare Espers, which makes them even better investment possibilities. And we are going to start off with Liao. Okay, so he is a defender type Esper, but I don't really consider him so much of a defender. I consider him more of like, let's say, a debuffer. His kit seems to flow in that direction. Okay, so let's take a look at his first skill. This just lends a taunt, so we're not going to talk too much about it. That's no big deal over there. And his second skill, Binge, deals damage to a target equal to 200% of his attack. Then you heal yourself for 5% of your max HP, and you have a 100% chance of dispelling all buffs affecting the target, healing himself for a bit more HP that way per buff this spell. So over here, he has a stripping kit, which is what makes for a support. And then finally, his third skill over here, Uncaged Beast. So you deal damage equal to 18% of your max HP to a target, and then you inflict Devour for 1 turn. Now only he has this debuff, okay? And if the target has more than 50% HP, then Devour lasts for 2 turns instead. And the target is also released immediately if blah 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 blah. But let's see what Devour can do, right? So Devour prevents a target from taking actions, being selected, being attacked, and also being debuffed or buffed. So basically the character is out of the game for 2 whole turns if they have above 50% HP. And this is really good if you use him in conjunction with, let's say, Chloe. So Chloe would then have fewer targets to RNG with, which means that she can potentially do a lot more damage using Liao in the same team. But of course, this is not where he shines the most in my opinion. I think where he shines the most is his captain ability here, or rather his leader buff. So you increase the ally speed in point war by 20%. So this is really huge, especially for you players out there who do not have Long Mian yet, or even like, let's say, Tia with a 25% speed lead. He would be able to give your team a 20% speed lead in point war, which makes him, which is why I feel like he's just a support Esper. He's just a buff remover and a debuffer, so basically just a controller in my opinion. Lol, quick plug again. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. But if you would like to free to win and support both myself and my channel, then do consider subscribing, as subscribing is free and you can always change your mind afterwards. Now, next one we have Melanie. So she is club shop specific right now, and let's take a look at her kit, right? So we're going to start off with her first skill. Basically, you deal damage and you have a 75% chance to inflict speed down to the target for 2 turns, and you have a 75% chance to transfer one of your debuffs on yourself to the target. And then we are going to move on to her third skill first, so Queen of the Night. You deal damage equal to 100% of your attack to all enemies with a 100% chance of reducing their AP by 15%. And if the target is debuffed, then you reduce a total of 30% AP. So this is really good in itself, but let's take a look at the passive, which is where she shines even more. Now, each attack reduces the target's AP by 15%, and if the target has less than 30% AP, you then inflict Petrification for 1 turn. And the reason why this is so good is, I mean, okay, obviously Petrification is good, but let's take a look at Petrification for itself, right? You cannot take actions, which is basically a stun, or reduce ability cooldown. So the thing is, if you're going to use her in conjunction with Espers such as Bonnie, who can like increase the cooldowns of your enemies, then petrifying them afterwards is going to be very powerful because it will take them 2 turns in order to retrieve their skills. So basically, they're not even going to be able to like respond with any meaningful abilities against your team. So she's going to be quite powerful for PvP. And of course, she also has a lot of relevance in like Temporal Tower per se. And finally, of course, she has a really good speed lead of 15%. This is quite good because it's universal. So you can use her in, let's say, Chronos as well if you want a little bit more AP control, or in a Temporal Tower if you want to move a little bit faster. Now the third Esper is going to be Lauren. So I think she has quite an interesting kit. She has a very unique kit, so to speak. Okay, so her first skill don't really do much. She just does a speed down for 2 turns, so that's okay. But her kit really shines on her second and third skill. So let's take a look at her second skill first. Heals one ally for 40% of the ally's max HP at a cost of 20% of your HP, and increases the target's AP by a further 50% with a cooldown of just 3 turns. Now let's take a look at the third skill here. Heals a teammate for 20% of their max HP, and if the target is already dead, you resurrect them with 20% of their max HP remaining, and you grant yourself a bonus turn. So basically, after reviving a teammate with 20% HP, you can then heal them again with another 40%, so they go up to 60%, and you also push their AP by another 50%, which is quite useful in probably like Temporal Tower. Now, I'd like to further add that because she gains an extra turn on her third skill, that effectively reduces the cooldown of her third skill to just 3 turns. Now, because she has really low cooldowns on her second and third skill, I think she can be greatly improved using Ocean Waves. So she can essentially upkeep her heals a lot. So also do take note that when you gain extra turns, you get another chance to proc Ocean Waves. So normally Espers who gives themselves turns would be really good with Ocean Waves. So she's quite niche in this aspect, which I think makes her quite useful and highly underestimated. Now the fourth Esper is going to be Chalmers. This is more of like an endgame Esper, so I wouldn't suggest you to build him, even though he is going to be very good for K10 and A10 because he does single target damage and he does a lot of it. So his first skill over here, Gold Ray, you do 120% of attack plus an extra 3% of a target's max HP, and the amount of the extra damage cannot exceed 100% of his attack. So it's either 3% of a target's max HP or 100% of his attack. So this equivalently means that he can do upwards of 220% of his attack on his first skill, which is really huge. And of course, this also costs him 5% of his current HP, which is not so much, I guess. But anyway, let's take a look at his second skill, right? So attacks an enemy twice, each dealing damage equal to 75% of attack with a 60% chance of inflicting disease for 2 turns. Now, if the target's HP ceiling is higher than yours, then each strike deals damage equal to 3% of the target's max HP, capping out at 100% of your attack. So basically, he hits 2 hits, and each of the hits deal upwards of 175% of his attack, which means that this skill is equivalently as powerful as a lot of other Esper's third skills. And this skill also has just a 3 turns cooldown, which makes him very powerful in terms of like just dealing consistent damage over time. And finally, Gold Pulse. Okay, so deal damage to a target equal to 120% of attack plus an extra 10% of the target's max HP at the cost of 40% of your current HP. Now, the amount of the extra damage cannot exceed 300% of your attack. So this skill, like I said, goes upwards to 420% of your attack at the cost of 40% of your HP. This is why I say this is more endgame specific. It's not so useful in the early game because if you cut your HP at 40% and you're not able to protect him afterwards, most of the time you're probably going to just get wiped, especially since Kronos will do like a double hit and possibly wipe your entire team like that. So I think he is tremendously powerful and I use him in all my K10 and A10 runs, so he's definitely very underestimated. Now finally, we have Jeanne. This is not really so much of an underestimation because I talk about her a lot and I do feel that she is really powerful, and I'll definitely do an Esper review on her someday very soon. So let's take a look at her skills, right? So why she's so good is that her kit revolves a lot around stuns. Now Punk attacks an enemy 3 times, each dealing damage equal to 40% of attack with a 25% chance to inflict stun for 1 turn on each of the hits. And then next one, we have Cool Rhythms. Deals damage equal to 90% of attack to 3 random enemies with a 100% chance of inflicting stun for 1 turn, and then you further absorb 30% of AP from each target. So essentially on her second skill, this kind of have like a cooldown of just 2 turns, right? Because if you absorb 90% AP from everyone, you will then almost instantly gain another turn, which will then reduce your cooldowns by 1. So this Cool Rhythms is incredibly powerful, although the stunning is just random. Now her third skill, Beat Burst, deals damage to 1 enemy equal to 120% of your attack plus 12% of your max HP, and you dispel all buffs and inflict stun for 1 turn. So basically this skill is very powerful against Dona in PvP because you can specifically choose to remove the buffs from Dona, and then if you have a Bion Dina, you can choose to nuke the Dona immediately from there and possibly even just one-shot the Dona just like that. So Jeanne is definitely very good for not just Temporal Tower but also in PvP. So these are the 5 Espers that are highly underestimated at this point of time, and I feel like they have a lot of value, especially going towards the mid game or even towards the end game for quite a few of them. I think like let's say Chalmers and maybe Jeanne, they both have very good end game potential. And in fact, I think Medusa has a lot of end game potential as well if you want someone who has a lot of AP control. And I think no one really matches up to her in terms of AP control because she AP controls on every single skill. Well, I know Sander can do the same thing, but the thing is, Sander is a little bit harder to build, whereas Melanie, she can just go straight up with like a lot of accuracy and a lot of HP and just a lot of speed, and it's very easy to build her that way. Now, if you found that this video was helpful for you, do consider leaving a thumbs up because it really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. And this has been Daddy Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.